Okay, here are some of the recent sightings of these giant triangular craft. Are they them or us? Are they human ingenuity? Are they shadow government test craft that they're using? Or are they reverse engineering of ET craft? Or are they, and what are they being built for? And why would they test stuff? All of y'all familiar with the flyover Phoenix, Arizona, back in when was that, 97, I believe? Yeah. Okay. That's a big deal. Big triangular craft. Went over Phoenix, very slow, turned, moved off. But here's a good example of how they cover these things up. This occurred about 8:30 at night. Thousands of people saw this thing. And then sometime between 8:30 and 10:30, somebody contacted the Maryland State Guard and ordered them to fly a training mission to Phoenix to the Barry Goldwater Gunnery Range and drop flares. So about 10:30 that night, they did just that. Now the Phoenix papers were full of this story the next day, but it never went anywhere else. Remember what I said about the distribution of the news? But 3 months later, in June of 1997, USA Today suddenly did a story on this thing that flew over Phoenix, and all the rest of the magpie journalists, they all went, and all of a sudden there was a brief blurb about this whole thing, okay? Well, the official version was, of course, that, well, it was just flares dropped by the Maryland State Guard. So some of the reporters who were a little bit ahead of their fellows actually contacted the Maryland State Guard, and they said, yeah, we flew out there and we dropped flares. They went, oh, okay, case closed. It was just flares. They dropped over, military flares over Phoenix. Nobody bothered to check that they dropped the flares 2 hours after they saw this thing fly over the city. But the key part of that story is that it didn't only fly over Phoenix, one of the most populous cities in the state, but came down the entire length of the state, right through the most populated corridor. Now, if it's a secret government test craft, why in the world would they fly over the most populated area? Why don't they go down to Big Bend in Texas? You know, you could fly around there all night and nobody but, you know, some prospector in a coat would see you. It's amazing. Are they setting us up for the next game after the war on terrorism? If the war on terrorism collapses and all of a sudden nobody's buying that anymore, what's next? Invasion from space? Yeah, give up the last of your liberties so we can protect you from invasion of space.